So, when it comes to Spider Man movies and actors, we have to make sure that we separate these two things entirely. Why? Because Spider Man films, well, they range from mediocre to great. I mean, some people might say bad, but yes, they have a range. They could range from bad to good or good to bad. But when it comes to the actors, I mean, Andrew, Toby, and Tom, I think they are fantastic Spider-Man. They bring to the table uh, the each portrayal of the Spidey. It brought something new to the table. I mean, I mean, not Peter's, Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man. It was much more serious, and it was very much mature compared to the other two, but yes, brilliant nonetheless. And then you had Andrew. Andrew was the most acrobatic Spider-Man. He had quips. He was very smart, and his talking shit type of thing. The battle quips which Spider-Man does in the comics and in the animated series. I think he was a really good Spider-Man. But when it comes to being Peter, he was like way too cool to be Peter. He was not nerdy or struggled to get the girl he liked. The things kind of fell for in place him for him. I'm sorry, the place. Oh my God, what the hell? We talk eloquently. I'm sorry. So the things fell in place for him. Yeah, right. Now it's good. Now when we talk about Tom, now Tom Holland kind of suffered from being part of an integrated shared universe. I mean, a lot of people like to point out that Tom's Iron Manification of his Spider-Man, like he was being way too dependent on Iron Man, kind of took away from what Spider-Man is because he's a solo guy and he always fights. He always, uh, chooses his battles and he fights alone. I mean, he faces all the difficulty by himself. That is what I truly love about Spider-Man, which we all love about Spider-Man. But Tom's involvement into the MCU, it was like a big no-no for a lot of people, which I can understand why it might happen, and I can also understand that why some people might like Tom's version more than Andrew or Toby's because they like seeing him in a team, and that's fine. That's fine. But yeah, we never had a bad Spider-Man. They were all great Spider-Man. And remember, anybody can wear a mask. So no hate for any actor. All of them are brilliant. I enjoyed all of them. I loved the soundtrack and the score of Danny Elfman, and I loved the web swinging and the acrobatic and the rhythmic movement of Andrew, and I love the childlike innocence in Tom. So yeah, I love all of them. But yes, when it comes to the films, yeah, I will say that some of them are not exactly my favorite. Some of them are. In fact, I consider some best Spider-Man films to be the best films of all time. I mean, I know you might be thinking that Goodfellas and Godfather and Shawshank Redemption. Yes, yes, I mean in that very league. Yes, I do mean it might come off as a surprise, because you have built this kind of higher perception of these films. For me, it's about what appeals to me more. I'm not a professional filmmaker, so the short selection of Taxi Driver or Robert De Niro's style of directing in Taxi Driver, it really does not have a profound effect on me like it might have on some people. So yeah, it's not an completely objective opinion, because as I said, opinions are like very subjective. But again, you still have to keep logic in your arguments, and which I will at least try to. You may not agree with them, and that's fine. We all disagree. That's fine. But yes, I will try to put some logical points. If you ask me, of course. When I'm talking about Spider-Man films, there are like nine right now. Including No Way Home. I mean, I'm not counting the animated ones, just the live actions one. But I will be talking about one Spider-Man animated movie. I do not know how many of them are there, but yes, I will say that I have not seen all of them. I have only seen Into the Spider-Verse. I mean, so if there are any other Spider-Man animated films which are absolutely brilliant, please recommend to me. I'll surely watch them. But for now, I'm talking about the films. The least favorite would be The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Now, it might not come as a surprise because for a lot of people, this movie was not, uh, this film was not a fan favorite flick. A lot of people kind of, man, it's just a Spider-Man movie. For some people, it was very profound. The Stacy's, the Gwen Stacy's death part was quite tragic to some people, and they were able to connect with Peter, with Andrew's version of Spider-Man more because he experienced loss of his loved one. I mean, not uncle or aunt, but a romantic partner. So a lot of people tend to look at that um, aspect of the film. They try to look it from a different perspective, which I appreciate, and I think that's great. We all should. I can understand where they are coming from, but other than that, the Amazing Spider-Man 2 had a lot of flaws. Let's talk about Electro. Electro uh, is not like the greatest Spider-Man villain, but I'm sure he can be utilized much more efficiently than he was done in Amazing Spider-Man 2. I think he was heavily underutilized, and the design of Electro was not great in my opinion. I really do not like his appearance, his suit, and the whole blue electricity thingy going on. I know a lot of people like electricity is blue. I get that, but it's more yellow in the comics too. Even his suit is very much yellowish rather than bluish. So yeah, I do think that his uh, portrayal, his the way he was used was very underutilized. It could have been better, and the worst part was the Green Goblin. Come on, man, how do you do better than William Dafoe's Green Goblin? You cannot. I really like the fact that spoilers from No Way Home. I really like the fact that in the No Way Home movie, we actually had a Green Goblin, and we completely forgot about about the Green Goblin from Amazing Spider-Man 2. We had Lizard, Rhino was referenced by Andrew, and then you had Electro. I think Electro was definitely one of the better Garfield villains, but I really like the fact that how they completely forgot about Green Goblin in Amazing Spider-Man 2. I think we all should. We all need a brain bleach on that because that was disgusting. I mean, no hate on the actor. I mean, of course, but the way he was portrayed and his appearance, what the hell? It looked like he had goddamn herpes on his face. I think a very bad villain design, a horrible Green Goblin, in my opinion. So some of the things, as I mentioned, underutilizing Electro, and then an absolutely botched attempt at resurrecting Green Goblin was awful. And in the end, I mean, Rhino, it was kind of a montage. We really did not see Spidey fighting him. We saw Paul Giamatti acting like a total lunatic in the beginning, and it was quite awful. He's like way too over the top accent. Uh, Rhino is dumb in the comics. I get that, but he was not enjoyable. It was just kind of cringe in my opinion. So yeah, there were a lot of issues regarding the villains. The best part was, of course, the relationship between Peter and Gwen Stacy, the most organic part of the film. But I really didn't like that artificial gap which was created by the script, where they did not talk to each other, that kind of a breakup thing going on. I think that was quite inconsistent with the whole film as well. So yeah, I think these are my issues with Amazing Spider-Man 2. Now moving on to my eighth Spider-Man film. I'm starting from the bottom. Amazing Spider-Man 2 was ninth and it is eighth now. Now, between Spider-Man 3 and Amazing Spider-Man 1, I think I will go with Amazing Spider-Man 1. Mainly because we really did not need to see death of Uncle Ben, the whole montage of him realizing his powers and how he's trying to live with them, and all the awkwardness that comes with being a Spider-Man trying to hide your powers, not to give into the temptation of showing off and stuff. We all saw that stuff, and it was really greatly done in Sam Raimi's trilogy. So it was kind of, I think, it was really not required, in my opinion, because I honestly thought that they were going to focus more on, Benjamin Parker, on his parents. on Peter's parents rather than showing the whole uncle thing. We all saw what happens. So it was kind of disappointing because we were literally saying, not saying, we were seeing the same film, but it was not just as well executed as Sam Raimi's film. At least in my opinion, you can like Amazing Spider-Man one more than Sam Raimi's 2002 Spider-Man. I have no qualms with that. So seeing all that stuff was kind of not really my cup of tea. And then, as much as I loved the portrayal of Spider-Man of Garfield, I did not think he was a good Peter. He was like way too cool, as I think I mentioned before. He got the girl like no problem and stuff. So yeah, I think it was a good movie, a good Spider-Man movie, but it was definitely not a memorable one, which might want to rewatch again and again. I think that's just my opinion. But he was a brilliant Spider-Man nonetheless. Now moving on to seventh, I will say Spider-Man 3. Now Spider-Man 3 is, I do believe, it's kind of overly hated. A lot of people think it's straight up trash, awful. No, it's not awful. It's not trash. It's not as good as the first two parts, of course, but it's not trash. I do think that in the end, when Harry chose to fight with Peter against Sandman and Venom, I think that was a great character arc for Harry. The way he all turned around and he decided to, help Peter rescuing MJ and stuff. I think it was really heartwarming. It was really touching, and his death, it was very saddening, man. I was like really sad. And in the very end, when Peter actually tells us, the audience, that no matter what happens, we always have the ability to make the right choice. Whatever battle is raging inside of us, we always have a choice. And his not fairy, his friend Harry, I'm sorry, his friend Harry chose to be the best of himself. It is the choices that make us who we are, and we can always choose to do what's right. I think it was a great monologue by Peter. But yeah, that's all about it. Whereas, if you want to talk about the shortcomings again, they completely botched up Venom, and they also kind of botched Sandman in the process because Sam Raimi originally wanted to create Sandman as the main villain because he did not understand Venom. He only wanted to create with Sandman, and you could actually see because Sandman had that heart, that soul which Raimi had in Dark Oak in Spider-Man 2. So you could actually see the imprints of a great villain and a great story, but it was never utilized because of the stupid interference of Sony, of the studios, into the production of the movie. I think that was the part where the film kind of slacked off. I think Topher, I mean, again, I do not want to hate any actor, but Topher Grace was just not a good Eddie Brock, and he was not a good Venom as a villain. I really do not like him. And yeah, that's my qualm with Spider-Man 3. The villains were, they kind of got confused what to do with Harry. I think it was a great setup for him to be the next Goblin and try to exact vengeance on Peter. That's like really sensible. But then he experienced a memory loss. It became more convenient, and then he, kind of cozies up with MJ, and then he remembers what Peter did to his father, and then he became suddenly evil all of a sudden. And then it took like three movies. It took such a long time for the butler to finally tell him that it was the glider wound. It was not Spider-Man, which eventually he again turned himself into a good guy. I think that was like no, that was not very organic. That felt extremely forced and rushed, just like Venom. These are my only qualms with Spider-Man 3. Now, moving on to the next movie. Now, it might come off as a surprise. That would be Far From Home. I know. You're saying that how how am I saying this? I mean, believe me, Far From Home is gorgeous. It looks gorgeous. It is shot in several gorgeous locations. I think it's very well shot, and Jake Gyllenhaal was a brilliant character antagonist. I loved all of that. But here's my complaint from from Far From Home. Sorry. So Peter was trying to shirk his responsibility. He was trying to get away, and that's exactly what Uncle Ben told Peter in his final moments. You know, not if not final moments, but like he was telling him that you with great power comes great responsibility, and he was running away from that. He chose to become Spider-Man for a reason. Now he's decided to shirk his responsibilities, and then he spent most of his time getting his ass kicked by Mysterio, which it's fine though for some people. They do not want to see a weak villain, and that's fine. I can understand that. But I do think that his abilities were underutilized. In order to show Mysterio superior, they kind of dumbed him down, which I really did not like. And another thing was the motivations of Jake Gyllenhaal. He was more like an Iron Man villain than a Spider Man villain. And for the comic book fans like us, if you have read the comics, you know that Quentin was really good with illusions. I think it was one of the X-Men comics where he kind of, you know, tricked Logan Wolverine into killing his fellow X-Men. We know he's like a great illusion type of guy. He's the goddamn Houdini on steroids. We know that. So, we see the movie and we are seeing him trying to act good, and then we kind of saw it coming. So all that buildup was like for nothing because we all knew he was going to turn, and his motivations were, as I said, were uh, more like an fuck you to Iron Man rather than uh, Spider-Man himself. He was not like exactly a Spider-Man villain, more of an Iron Man villain, kind of ham-fisted into a Spider-Man movie, which I really did not like. I loved his performance as Mysterio. I think he was great. The illusions were great, but yeah, the motivation kind of fell flat for me. I don't know. I really did not like Far From Home as much as other people. So these are my qualms with Far From Home. And wait a second. So, sorry. Yeah, and then I have Homecoming at fourth place. No, fifth place. Yes. Then I have Homecoming. Now, Homecoming was indeed a brilliant Spider-Man movie. While I acknowledge the fact that there was a lot of involvement of Tony Stark and RDJ in the movie, which a lot of Spider-Man fans like us have always kind of objected to, like he was way too dependent. I get all that, but still, I do think that Vulture was a great villain. Adrian Toomes was a great villain. I mean, how he turned out to be the father of his crush. I think that was like a great twist, and his motivations were quite justified in my opinion. And he actually gave Peter a really good speech about the reality of the how the world functions, and how he is a kid and he does not understand how complicated the things can be. It was a really good villain. And even in the post credits, when the Mac Gargan, very sad that we do not get to see him anymore, portrayed by the absolutely brilliant, fantastic Michael Mando. Well, anyways, when he was talking to Mac Gargan, saying that he does not know the identity of Spider-Man. I think I like villains which do have honor in them. He did not, he revealed his identity despite being aware of it. I think that was a great twist. And in the very end, of course, he did not fight with the most advanced suit present. He fought with his own suit and without much help and assistance from Tony. And also in the end, when he was being offered the Iron Spider suit to become part of the Avengers, and he declined it and he walked away, I think that was great too. I think it was brilliant. That exactly what Spider-Man would do. For these reasons alone, I think I like Homecoming better than Far From Home. Now, the fourth would be Spider-Man 1, because Spider-Man 1 was absolutely brilliant, the perfect origin story of how he had the guilt that because it was his fault that his uncle died. Now he's trying to make it up by fighting crime and injustice. And William Dafoe, oh my god, he was a brilliant villain. His performance as Green Goblin still stands today. One of the best villain performances of all time. I absolutely love and adore. Great villain, great origin story, and great ending. the ending where MJ finally confesses her love to Peter, saying that she loves him, and he says that all he can offer is friendship because he knows that if she gets involved in his life, she's eventually gonna get hurt. So he walks away from that. He embraces his destiny, his responsibility. He says that it is his gift and it is his curse, and he will deal with it because he's the Spider-Man. A great, beautiful ending, beautiful message, very well directed. So much heart and soul was put in the movie by Sam Raimi and the accompanying actors, along with Tobey Maguire. I think it was brilliant, perfect origin superhero story. Now the remaining three, the remaining three are Spider-Man 2, Into the Spider-Verse, and what else? Yeah, Into the Spider-Verse and No Way Home and Spider-Man 2. Now, I really do not want to elaborate much on Spider-Man 2 because you can find a lot of that stuff on the internet praising the greatness which it absolutely has. So yeah, Spider-Man 2 has been my favorite Spider-Man film of all time. Then came along Into the Spider-Verse. You know, this is the place where I kind of get conflicted because Into the Spider-Verse is literally like my favorite animated film of all time, just along with Adventures of Tintin, directed by Steven Spielberg. Why? Because Into the Spider-Verse was brilliant. It was the most comic booky movie you could ever dream of. It was funny, it was charming, it had a lot of heart, just like the Raimi films. And Miles Morales was a brilliant, brilliant protagonist, a brilliant Spider-Man. And what else? Seeing all these characters from the Spider Verse, the anime Spider one and the Spider Pig and Gwen Stacy and Peter B. Parker and the blonde Spider Man, all that type of stuff was like extremely brilliant because gorgeous animation accompanied by a very insanely talented voice cast. I mean, Spider-Man Noir by Nicolas Cage was like my favorite one. I absolutely loved him in the film. His humor was brilliant, and Aunt May was again brilliant in the movie. And best thing was, I know what I'm going to say. The What's Some Danger holds the whole sequence where Miles finally gains confidence to become Spider-Man. The whole sequence where Peter says that you will never know you're Spider-Man. You just have to believe. You just to take your leap of faith. And when he becomes the Spider-Man and he falls from the building, but he's actually I mean in one of the I think in the script it was written that while Miles is falling, he's gaining confidence, but he's actually rising. I mean that's poetic writing right there, man. I absolutely loved it. And another detail which I also read that Miles Morales' character was actually moving at 15 FPS speed, but after he gained confidence, he moved at 30 FPS. I think that was brilliant. I can gush hours and hours on how much I love Into the Spider-Verse. It's really that good. And now, when it comes to No Way Home, I think No Way Home could be the dream of every Spider-Man fan across the world, man. I mean, I don't know what to say. I'm at a loss of words for this. I will talk about No Way Home in a different video, because there's a lot of stuff I want to talk about No Way Home, and this video is already quite long in my opinion. So yeah, I will definitely talk about No Way Home, but yes, it still is one of my like all-time favorite Spider-Man films, alongside uh, Spider-Man 2 Into the Spider-Verse. Not only Spider-Man films, but superhero films in general. For example, Logan. Logan and Spider-Man 2 have been my favorite superhero films for a very long time. The Into the Spider-Verse is not exactly a major motion picture, a live picture. It's an animated one, so it kind of uh, bit shaky in that aspect. But now, No Way Home is a very close contestant to Spider-Man 2. Maybe on a rewatch, I might say No Way Home is better than Spider-Man 2. It could happen. Well, I do not know, but yeah, I mean these are my takes and my opinions. As far as the portrayal of Spider-Man are concerned, you see, a lot of people say Josh Keaton, a lot of people say Yuri Lowenthal from the Spider-Man PS4 game, and I can get that. But portraying Spider-Man, the portrayal of the wall crawler, the web slinger, the friendly neighbor Spider-Man. Portraying him in live action is quite difficult. You cannot really compare him with voice acting. I'll probably do a different video regarding the most accurate portrayal of Spider-Man or Peter Parker. But yeah, I do think I do think that Yuri Lowenthal was a great Spider-Man. Well, it's a different topic, but again, these were my films. My favorite films of Spider-Man. Well, I would love to know what would be your favorite Spider-Man films or rankings. If you have, just let me know. I always respond to the comments. If they are there, I will. So there's that. I guess I'll see you later. Bye.